Hi, I wanted to speak today about being available for men and for a potential partner. Um, this is something that comes up a lot with the different women that I work with. It came up for myself too, to be honest, when I was dating. And, it can even come up still when you're in a relationship and when you're married or in a committed relationship. I certainly see it come up in married couples still, but it's really prevalent. And look, I think this one probably goes for men and for women, but obviously I'm going to speak to the women about this. And that is how available is too available. Now, when you're dating somebody, and I have this one client at the moment who's a recent graduate from my Love Codes program, and she has had this experience. She's this most amazing woman. She's really, really strong and independent, and she, does her own thing on her own terms. There's no doubt about that. However, often when a man comes into her life, and recently there was one, if it's not 100%, as in let's say it's the very beginning, or things aren't really flowing that well, or they're not, you're not really in the relationship yet. And, at the beginning when you're dating someone, you never know if they're going to call, and you never know when you're going to be seeing them next. Well, that's the case in some situations. Some men are just straight up front and, tell you straight away when they want to see you, and that's great. But that time when you're not sure if he's going to call, or when he's going to call, or if you're going to see him again, or when you're going to see him again, it can be a real time of anxiety, especially if we really like the guy. And so we're kind of like waiting, as much as we'd like to think we're not, we're waiting for him to call. And for some of us, we say that we're not, but we are. And some of us say that we are, and we are. And that is where we find ourselves never being able to commit to other things, or being really wishy-washy with other things and other commitments, because you never know. You're thinking, well, he might call, or he might want to see me this weekend. So let's say, one of your girlfriend calls you up. Hi, Magita. Let's say one of your girlfriends call you up and say, hey, we've got this thing to go to on, next Saturday. It's Monday morning. We've got this thing to go to next Saturday. We'd really love you to come. And you kind of go, yeah, I want to, leave it with me for a bit. I need to just wait and see. And what you're really thinking is, I need to wait and see if he calls me, because in my mind, we're going out on Saturday night. And so you want to keep that gap open for him. And that seems like a reasonable thing to do, right? Like, you want to be available if for this amazing man, that you've been seeing, or that you've seen a few times, to take you out. The problem with this is, hearing me say it out loud, even just to this point, you probably already know, but the problem with this is, you're perpetuating anxiety, for starters, and we're perpetuating low self-worth as well, because you're putting yourself on hold and your life on hold. And what if he doesn't call? You're also putting way too much pressure on him, because you're waiting for him to call. If he doesn't call you, then you end up last minute trying to find something to do, or staying home feeling depressed, or worse than that, you've said yes to your girlfriends and then you go back on them and say, oh no, I can't. You make up some sort of excuse because he's asked you out. Now, how does this feel on two sides of the story? There's two sides of the story here. How does it feel? There's three, really. Your side. For you, you're perpetuating anxiety. You've got no idea what's happening. You got no idea if he's calling, and you feel like you don't feel that great about yourself, because you feel like, on some level, you kind of feel like you're not good enough, or you're questioning, am I good enough? And this is anxiety building. On your friends and family side of things, they start to feel like they're not a priority anymore, because even if you're not saying to them specifically that you're waiting to hear from somebody else, they know. They get the drift, if you're constantly saying, oh, maybe, or then cancelling on them last minute. And the really important part, well, they're all important, but the important part that most women don't really realize, what happens for the fella, the guy, is that if you're always available, then you're not really a high value thing. If it's like supply and demand, if you're always there, there's no need for him to call you, make sure that he's got you, make sure that make sure that he gets to you before somebody else does. And our fear, however, for a lot of women, and it's unconscious most of the time, the fear is that, well, if I'm not available when he wants to see me, then he'll forget about me, or he'll move on to somebody else. And the truth is that might happen. If that happens, it's what is called a really helpful filter. Hi, Matt here. I'm just talking about making ourselves too available to men. So that filter is a really important thing, because if a man stops calling you because you're not available that one time or maybe two times, then that means that he wasn't really interested. And in actual fact, that's what we want to learn as early on as possible, is how interested is this guy? Because if he's only calling you because you're making yourself super available, or you're contorting yourself into different shapes other than who you really are, then he's not really into you. He's into whatever it is that you're pretending to be. So, sorry, I digress a little bit. Let's just move back. So, if you are always available, then to him, you're not in high demand. So there's no need for him to have to make sure that he thinks about when he's going to see you and, in advance. It's not to say that he won't, but that can often be the case. It's just human nature. Now, on the other hand, if we flip it and we make sure that we stay occupied, doing our own thing, fulfilling ourselves, making ourselves happy, well, I mean, do I even have to say, on every level of our life, this helps. And even especially when dating and in relationship with a man. Obviously, if you're making yourself happy, how does that help you? You're happy, but you're doing things as well. You're not waiting for life to hand over your happiness or your sense of fulfillment. But also, and this is most importantly, even before we get to the guy, most importantly, you are fulfilling and feeding your own sense of self-worth, your worthiness. Very different to deserving, but being worthy. Because I'm worthy of happiness. Therefore, I will choose in each moment the thing that brings me happiness. I'm worthy of love. Therefore, if I believe I'm worthy of love, it comes to me. So by sitting around and saying, oh, but I can't do anything just in case he calls, that is not fulfilling or supporting your own sense of worthiness. Now, how does this play out for him? If you let yourself be engaged in life and not waiting around for him, that means that if your girlfriends call you on a Monday and they say, hey, Saturday we've got this great thing to go to, and you really want to go to it, you book it in. Now, he might call you Monday night or Tuesday and say, hey, I really want to see you again. Let's go out Saturday night. What do you say? You're really honest and you say, oh my God, I really want to see you. I really do. I've already made plans though. My girls have asked me and we're going to do this and it's going to be amazing. And what happens? He goes, oh. Internally, he feels, unconsciously he feels to himself like, oh shit, I better jump on this because I want to see this girl and clearly she's got other things in her life to do. So he'll be like, well, what about Sunday? Or he'll find another time. If he doesn't do that, then is it really worth it? So not only when we stop making ourselves over available do we fulfill our own sense of happiness, feed and support our sense of self-worth, but by doing this, we're indicating to the world what we really want. We're going out and getting it. We're allowing ourselves to receive it. And the message that the message it gives to the men in our life is that I'm worthy and I'm engaged in life. So that's what you need to give to me. And that's what they will give to you if you're doing that for yourself. And remember, on the other hand, if you're making yourself over available, then the guy that you're interested in is just got you. You won't always be the first thought for him because he'll just know that you're going to be available. And, I related this mostly to dating, but let's be honest, this is absolutely prevalent in marriages and in long-term relationships as well, and short-term relationships. So often we see where there's a partner who's really engaged in life and they've really got their shit going on and they're really happening, and maybe it's work, maybe it's social life, maybe they've got extracurricular activities, and often there's one, and it's often the woman, not always, but it's often the woman who waits around to see how her things are going to fit into him. And they wait around too for him to prioritize her, for him to make time to see her. And in relationships, sometimes this works in a way where the woman steps into the masculine role and starts to be the one to organize and decide everything and make the dates happen. And exactly the same thing happens. You stop feeling loved. You stop feeling important. You stop feeling worthy. You stop feeling like a feminine goddess because the man, your husband or your partner, no longer prioritizes you. He fits you in whenever there's nothing else to do because he knows that you're always going to be around. You're just going to be at home or reading a book or watching a movie or hanging out with the kids. So he doesn't make it an important thing to try and spend time with you. And likewise, if you've stepped into the masculine and you're the one who's organizing all of the dates and all the social activities and all that kind of stuff, then he's not going to take the time. His need to spend time with you is fulfilled. So he's not going to step up and take any action. So, it's really important. That feeling, and if we really boil it down now to an energetic, spiritual, psycho-emotional phase or space, what this comes down to, making ourselves available just in case, it just tells us that we're not worthy. It just tells us that we're not good enough. And remember, whatever message we're giving ourselves is the message that we're giving the world, and we're certainly giving to the men in our lives. So, don't make yourself unavailable. That's just playing games, and I'm totally not into that. Make yourself engaged in life. Love your life. Live your life. Engage in the things that you love doing. And if and when the man that you're interested in connects with you and wants to see you, be excited. Say yes. If you're already busy, that's fine. You can make another time to do it. And if he doesn't, you're not available one time and so then he moves on to something else, then thank God. Thank the universe that filtration process has worked, that the only men that are getting through to you are the ones who are really interested, because otherwise it's a waste of your very, very precious time. Hopefully this has helped a few of you who are watching. And if you have any questions, of course, just pop them in the comments below. If you haven't joined the group yet, I've started up a group and it's called The Physics of Love and Relationship. And that's where I'm going to be doing all of my lives and making all of my offers that are coming up. I have some really awesome offers coming up for my programs and coaching. And they're all going to be in that group. So if you haven't joined, go on and join The Physics of Love and Relationship. And if you've gotten a million invitations from me to join it, I apologize. I'm still working out how to use that part of Facebook. Love you all. Thanks so much for watching. And share this if you resonate with it and other people who could benefit from this. I'm sure you do. Bye.